And good afternoon, everyone. As Senator Kelly indicated, I'm very honored to serve as ranking senator on the Judiciary Committee, a committee that I've served on for almost 28 years now. And I have a very good working relationship with Representative Staffstrom, Senator Winfield, and my very bright and hard-working fellow ranking member from the House, Craig Fishbein. What we're proposing is to address the issue of fentanyl head-on. And to those folks who say, oh, you Republicans, you only say increased penalties and mandatory minimums, but in this instance, this is a deadly serious situation. And yes, we're proposing that we increase penalties for fentanyl and have mandatory minimums. And exactly what those will be, I'm going to discuss that with one of our attorneys, Brian Caffarelli. But I can tell you right now that the first meeting of the Judiciary Committee leadership is scheduled for a week from now, February 3rd, and this will definitely be one of the issues at the top of our agenda, and I will make sure that we discuss it. Why increase the penalties? Well, if you have an opportunity to talk to someone who's a recovering drug addict who might be on the older side, they'll say it's not like, and they're honest, the good old days. Now, I didn't know that when heroin was the drug of choice for a lot of hardcore addicts, that those were the quote-unquote good old days. But I've had an opportunity to talk to recovering drug addicts, and they said at least you knew what you were getting most of the time. And they were able to assess how much to put in the needle and inject into their arms or wherever part of their body was available to do that. And they shook their head when I talked to them, and I said, well, what about fentanyl? And they said, no one knows. No one knows. You might think you're getting XYZ, but depending on where you got it, it could definitely, as Senator Kelly pointed out, kill you a little bit. Just think, a couple grains of salt. What's the ratio? The ratio is that fentanyl can be up to 50 times as potent as a similar amount of heroin. So we feel that if you had a bag of fentanyl and its equivalent is 50 bags of heroin, that those penalties should be proportionate. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction, increase the penalties. I would suggest that if you compare a knife to a bomb, which is more dangerous to the public health? Well, you could do a lot of damage with a knife if used inappropriately, and there is appropriate use for fentanyl in a medical setting if prescribed and the proper dosage. But a bomb, again used with malicious intent, blow up whole buildings. Well, fentanyl's the same thing. Fentanyl's on the streets. It's my understanding, again, I don't have personal knowledge, but in talking to individuals that had been involved in illicit drug usage, it's their belief that it's manufactured in China, shipped to Mexico, and then brought into the United States. We also suggest, and whether we can get our arms around it in the next 3 months or whether we have to conduct further studies, is the notion of fentanyl analogous substances, substantially similar chemical compositions. And we wouldn't want someone who's out there selling this drug to not necessarily be charged because there's a slight chemical change in the substance. And one of the other committees that I serve on is general law. We have cognizance over Department of Consumer Protection, which has cognizance over pharmaceuticals and pharmacies in the state of Connecticut. And drawing those distinctions is not always easy. But again, we feel that the threat to innocent individuals is out there, and so we want to get our arms around someone who changes the chemical composition a little bit to try to avoid the penalties. And so we feel that that's fruit for further investigation, and we would think that it's only fair that an individual be charged appropriately. And when I talk about the analogous substances. It's not the ones that are adulterated, where you would take the pure fentanyl and say cut it with something like rat poison or something else just to increase your amount of quantity to increase your profits. The last point that I'll make is this. We believe in second chances. This isn't about the victims. This isn't about users. This is about sellers. This is about the supply chain throughout the United States and into other countries. They don't care. It's all about money. It's all about profit. And if you look at this, every one of those flags is someone we lost. It's my understanding that we lose to drugs in Connecticut as many lives as we lost in the entire Vietnam War from Connecticut. That's happening over and over. This is a scourge. This is a horror. As Senator Kelly pointed out, no mom or dad, no loved one wants to see a young child die this way before their time. Senseless. It's insidious. So it's a deadly serious situation. We want to take appropriate measures. We want stiff penalties for sellers because they're doing harm to our most precious individuals, our children, the future of Connecticut, but also adults. And it's time that we address this issue now. Thank you, Senator Kelly.